Lubuntu kicks 32-bit users to the curb. It will no longer offer 32-bit images. How much of the internet is fake? Turns out a lot, actually. We're going to be reviewing 2018 in terms of the fight for software freedom, some small victories that we can celebrate, and some things we need to improve on. Also, looking back at the distros released in 2018, the 5 best Linux distros according to one article. The most advanced file manager ever? Polo has a ton of really nice features if you're willing to pay for them. These are 5 stories that I will be taking into account. And the first story on the docket tonight, Lubuntu kicks 32-bit users to the curb. At least that is the headline from this article from Beta News. This article was written by Brian Fagioli. Lubuntu kicks 32-bit Linux users to the curb. Nice little picture there. Reading the first paragraph here of his article, it is the year 2018 and 2019 is around the corner. 64-bit processors have been mainstay for a really long time, and that is very true. You haven't really went out to the store and purchased a computer that didn't have a 64-bit processor. Oh, in at least 15 years, probably. If you have a 32-bit machine, it is really ancient now. It's very rare now that you find people still running 32-bit computers. Anyway, reading on, if you are still using a computer that is 32-bit only, it is time to toss it into the dumpster. No, I'm not being an elitist. It is simply time to move on. I won't go that far and say you need to throw your 32-bit computers in the dumpster. We're always going to have Linux distributions that will run those things, and if you want to keep them and you still can get work done on them, absolutely. Keep those 32-bit machines. I still have some really ancient stuff, in my closet too. But does every Linux distribution out there need to support 32-bit machines? Of course not. There are some Linux distributions out there that are really designed for running that ancient hardware. Distros like Puppy Linux, for example, will always have a 32-bit image. Antix will always have a 32-bit image, I would suspect, because that is the kind of machines those distros were really built for, right? So Lubuntu, when I first tried Lubuntu 10 years ago or so, Lubuntu was just really coming on the scene, and it was kind of a distro that people assumed was for older hardware. I mean, it ran the LXDE desktop environment, and you could put Lubuntu on a machine that was 10, 12, 15 years old in some cases, and it would run great. So Lubuntu has always had this stigma of being that distro designed for those really ancient machines, but they're kind of getting away from that. Lubuntu is growing kind of out of that. It's still going to be a really fast, light, minimal distro, but they don't want to support those ancient 32-bit machines any longer. So the lead dev for Lubuntu, Simon Quigley, posted this a few days ago over at lubuntu.me. That's the official website for Lubuntu. I always get confused about the official website for Lubuntu because you have lubuntu.net and lubuntu.me. And both of them look very official-like, but I guess what I am told from people in the know, lubuntu.me is the actual official Lubuntu site. Anyway, so Simon Quigley, he posted this, Sunsetting i386. Lubuntu has been and continues to be the go-to Ubuntu flavor for people who want the most from their computers, especially older hardware that cannot handle today's workloads. However, the project and computing as a whole has drastically changed in many ways since its origin 10 years ago. So I guess I was kind of right about Lubuntu. I remember first trying it around 10 years ago. Apparently, that's about the age of it. It's 10 years. Anyway, Simon goes on to say that computers now faster, more secure, and for the most part, you haven't seen 32-bit architecture in forever, right? He mentions that 32-bit i686 is gone. In Debian and Ubuntu, they typically generalize this architecture as i386. Simon goes on to write that As an increasing number of Linux distributions have focused their attention on 64-bit x86 architecture and not on i386, we have found that it is harder to support than it once was. So, most Linux distributions now have already dropped 32-bit support. Most of your main Linux distributions, most Linux distributions you guys have ever heard of, certainly most of the public, if they've ever heard of most Linux distributions, things like Ubuntu and Fedora and SUSE, they've already dropped 32-bit, right? Because there's just no machines out there. And in the article, Simon mentions that these machines, these 32-bit machines, are, quote, an artifact of the past. And he's right. You don't see very many of these machines out there in the wild at all anymore. 10 years ago, when Lubuntu first came on the scene, 32-bit machines were rare. 10 years ago, they were really rare. But it made kind of sense to still support them. There were enough of them out there, it made sense. Now, it is very hard to find somebody using a 32-bit machine. So, Simon writes, Lubuntu 1904 and future versions will not see a release for the i386 architecture. So, what do you do? So, people are going to ask me, hey, you know what? I still have a 32-bit machine. I run Lubuntu. I want to keep running Lubuntu. What do you do? Well, Simon in the article here mentions Lubuntu 1804 was an LTS. It still had a 32-bit image. Go to Lubuntu 1804 if you're not running it, install it, and that thing is supported a full 3 years, so you get support all the way until April of 2021. If that is not enough time for you, then you could install Ubuntu and then install the Lubuntu desktop, the LXQt desktop on top of it. Maybe you install Ubuntu server and then install the LXQt desktop environment, assuming that you're comfortable doing that. And Ubuntu 1804 LTS is supported for a full 5 years. And they had a 32-bit image for 1804, I believe. So that would get you another couple of years. Other than that, if you're running 32-bit images, it's time to move on, right? Most Linux distros are not going to cater to those machines anymore. You know, it really takes a specialist kind of niche distro to cater to 32-bit machines now. So I'm talking about Puppy, Antics, you know, distros like that, Fat Dog, which I recently reviewed on the channel, maybe live distros like TinyCore, things like that. They will always support 32-bit. They will always have 32-bit images, but don't expect a lot of the more mainstream distros to cater to 32-bit users anymore, because, you know, that's just, you know, Lubuntu, they always want to be light and fast, blazing fast, minimal. But they want light, fast, minimal, but they assume you're running modern hardware, which is the case for most of us, even though many of us love these lightweight desktops like Lubuntu. You know, we have modern machines that we run Lubuntu on. We just run Lubuntu for the speed, right? We're speed freaks. It's not, I have a machine that's so old, you know, that I've got basically hamsters turning a wheel to power the thing. No, I have real machines that are 64-bit machines, and Lubuntu recognizes that. The fact that most of their users are not running 32-bit, very few are, so they're just going to drop it. My thoughts, I think it's a fine decision. I know they're going to get a little bit of a backlash from this, but I think it's probably the smart move for them. And the second story on the docket tonight is fake news, actually. It is actually a story about the fake internet. How much of the internet is fake? Turns out a lot of it, actually. This is an article written by Max Reed over at Intelligencer. Anyway, this is a very lengthy article that covers a wide variety of subtopics here, so I won't cover the whole thing, but basically how much of the internet is fake. In his initial paragraph here, he talks about how in November, the Justice Department unsealed some indictments against 8 people accused of, quote, fleecing advertisers of $36 million in 2 of the largest digital ad fraud operations ever uncovered. So, basically, we have 8 people that committed a very large fraud operation here against online advertisers. So, online advertisers, quote, digital advertisers, they tend to want 2 things. Obviously, they serve up ads on the web, so they want people to actually look at those ads, right? They want people to look at those ads, people to click on those ads. To do that, they have to also have websites for people to go to see those ads. So they want premium websites that get a lot of traffic on which they can put their ads on, and then they want people to actually click on those ads. So what these schemers did, these 8, criminals here, since they've had some indictments against them. Anyway, these 8 people, they infected 1.7 million computers with malware that, quote, remotely directed traffic to spoofed websites. Spoofed websites are empty websites designed for bot traffic. So these are, your black hat SEO kind of websites. You throw up these websites mainly for SEO purposes, to game the search engines, to get traffic, but there's no real content on these sites. They're not designed really for humans. They're designed for spiders. They're designed for search engine spiders. So they rank better in the search engines, so certain keywords come up, in the search results. Anyway, so they infected 1.7 million computers with this malware that, again, remotely directed traffic to these spoofed websites that they created that served up a video ad purchased from one of their advertisers. So they're serving ads on a fake website, really to fake people. So there was nobody really viewing this site. Bots were visiting this site. They created bots that would do fake clicks, fake mouse movements, do all this stuff to kind of trick the ad network to thinking these were legitimate people visiting a legitimate site, and at least a few of them were legitimately clicking on the ads. Now, this was pretty advanced stuff here. These 8 guys were real pros. It is very hard to fool the big online advertisers like Google and Facebook and, those kinds of companies, because they have their own bots in place, and they have their own fraud detection tools. If anything seems out of place at all, they're going to investigate it. And if anything seems out of place at all, I can tell you from experience, Google's not going to pay you for that ad. If they think if that ad is if there's something even slightly fishy with the person that viewed that ad or that clicked that ad, they're not going to pay you for that ad. So the fact that, they were able to basically fleece these advertisers for $36 million is actually quite amazing because of how hard this is to do. But reading on, let me show you how hard they went, because they created these bots on these spoofed websites, clicking, doing fake clicks, gathering fake cookies, or actually real cookies from other websites, just as a human would do. I'm going to read here. Quote, fake people with fake cookies and fake social media accounts, fake moving their fake cursors, fake clicking on fake websites. The fraudsters, they had essentially created a simulacrum of the internet where the only real things were the ads. Reading a little further, of course, how much of the internet is fake? That was the topic that I had put in the show, and it's the topic here of the article. At least that was the headline. How much of the internet is fake? Studies generally put the number at somewhere around 60%. Year after year, less than 60% of web traffic is human. Some years, according to researchers, a healthy majority of web traffic is actually bot traffic, right? It's bots and spiders. YouTube. Think about YouTube for a second. One of the largest sites on the web. YouTube estimates that bots masquerading as people, that portion of their traffic is nothing but bots. It's so high that employees feared an inflection point after which YouTube systems for detecting fraud traffic would begin to regard bot traffic as real and human traffic as fake. Because the bot traffic starts to look normal, right? There's so much bot traffic. That's the normal traffic, and it's the humans that are doing stuff on the website that are the fake traffic. YouTube is worried that their algorithms are going to start getting confused because of how much action on their website is done by bots. That hypothetical event that YouTube is talking about, they call that, quote, the inversion. It's when, the bot traffic, outweighs the human traffic, and the bot traffic starts to look normal to YouTube's own internal, bots and spiders, their algorithms. And reading a little further here, the next subheading is "The metrics are fake." Because so much of the web is fake, right? It makes sense that all the metrics about the web are also fake. Think about websites that tell you, I get this many unique users every month, this many views every month. This many people, view my ads, click on my ads. If most of the web is not even real people, then all your metrics are garbage. I'm going to put this in a Linuxy perspective. DistroWatch.com, they love to talk about their page hit rankings, their top 100 Linux distros ranked by page hits on DistroWatch.com. I guarantee you, especially some of those at the top of DistroWatch's page hit rankings, those numbers are manipulated. They're manipulated by certain people, maybe people officially with those distros at the top, or people that just wanted to game the system just for their own personal amusement. There are bots that are affecting DistroWatch's page hit rankings. So all the metrics on the internet are fake. Most of the people on the internet are fake is the next heading. I'm not going to read it. Most of the businesses on the internet are also fake. I mean, we just saw these fraudsters. They created fake websites, fake businesses, really, not even designed for humans. They just designed these fake businesses, these fake websites to fool the bots out there, right? The advertising bots. So the businesses are fake. The content on these websites is fake, going way deep. And I'm not going to cover this, but our politics are fake and we ourselves are fake. And I would say that's probably true. Most of us are not who we really are on the internet. Anyway, fantastic article, lengthy article, but one I highly recommend each and every one of you take a look at. And the third story on the docket tonight, reviewing 2018 in terms of the fight for software freedom. Some small victories that we can celebrate. So I'm going to go over to the Free Software Foundation's website, FSF.org, FSF.org. freesoftwarefoundation.org. You guys, you can Google it. So anyway, of course, as always, I'm going to link to the articles in the show's description. Small Victories Matter, the year in free software. This was written by Dana Morgenstein. Anyway, reading briefly. At a brief glance, 2018 might seem like a big old bummer when it comes to the fight for software freedom. The FCC voted to dismantle net neutrality regulations, Facebook continued to abuse the public trust, and the European Union passed the disastrous Article 13, which threatens free speech and free software. The article goes on to mention, other kind of disastrous stuff going on with within the smartphone industry, infections with spyware, DRM. They don't like the sinister, quote, Internet of Things devices, things like Alexa, Echo, Google Home, all those iDevices people are putting in their homes. People nowadays are basically bugging their own house. They're putting all these devices in their house with these microphones that are constantly listening in on you. I don't personally advise anyone to do that. But the Free Software Foundation says it's not all bad. We did make some gains in 2018. So reading a little further, major donations. As you may have already heard, the FSF received two wonderful, enormous monetary gifts this year. 91.45 bitcoins valued at $1 million from the Pineapple Fund and another $1 million from Handshake. So that's two $1 million donations. That is incredible. That's really generous of those people or those organizations that donated that much money to help the Free Software Foundation. Also, the Free Software Foundation wants to applaud Microsoft for joining the Open Invention Network. Quote, just to be clear, Microsoft has a very long way to go to earn the free software movement's trust. However, we were pleased to hear that they're starting to pay some attention to our calls to cease their use of computational idea patents to aggressively intimidate free software developers, distributors, and users. Another thing to celebrate, according to the Free Software Foundation, is Libre.js. So, JavaScript is almost impossible to escape on the internet. The Free Software Foundation, of course, promotes free software. There is a lot of non-free JavaScript out there. Most JavaScript on the web is non-free JavaScript, and obviously we want to see free software prevail, so we want to see things like Libre.js. Also, ActivityPub becomes a W3C recommended standard. Quote, while we do not recommend the W3C as a place to do standards work since they sold out to proprietary corporate interest and betrayed your freedom by adopting the encrypted media extension standard for DRM, it's nevertheless cause for celebration that the group of community experts working on the standard brought their work to the completion, leading to the W3C recommending ActivityPub this past January. So the Free Software Foundation is no fan of W3C, just like they're no fan of Microsoft, but they do give them a pat on the back when they do things right. So ActivityPub became a W3C recommended standard. That's a good thing. Also, slow but positive progress regarding digital rights management. So the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMCA, creates legal penalties for those trying to break the DRM on products you own, a major violation of your user freedom. So that sentence in a nutshell basically explains why the Free Software Foundation is so against DRM, digital rights management. It's because for free software, the free movement really is you own this piece of equipment, whatever it is, this product you've bought. You should have the freedom to do whatever you want with whatever this is that you own, right? And digital rights management, of course, prevents you, again, they create legal penalties for you trying to break the DRM on the products that you physically own. So that's why the Free Software Foundation, of course, is against DRM. But again, slow but positive progress on DRM. I'm not going to read exactly what that slow progress is. We still got a lot of way to go on the DRM. Also, the last paragraph here, tech workers get active. So we get a lot more people that are active in the movement. And they mention people that work for large corporations like Google, that Google had a bunch of their employees basically take the company to task over their plans to build, quote, Dragonfly, which was the censored search engine that they were building specifically for China, which is crazy. I mean, nobody that, thinks human rights is a good thing thinks that Google should build a search engine just for China, a censored search engine just for the oppressed Chinese people. And some of the Google employees actually thought this was a bad idea. And again, they really took their own company to task over this, and Google eventually scrapped those plans. The Free Software Foundation article here also talks about people getting active as far as activism for net neutrality and people being activists against DRM, Article 13 in Europe, and of course, increasingly, the right to repair, which is becoming a bigger and bigger deal. The right to repair is where you have the right to repair, of course, your own equipment, computer equipment, cars, John Deere tractors, that sort of thing. I mentioned John Deere because there has been stories where, you just can't repair your own tractor. You have to carry it to somebody else who gouges the price. So think computers, you have to carry your new MacBooks to the Apple store because you can't physically repair them yourself because these machines are locked down in such a way that you have to have some kind of key. The only people that have the key are the folks at the Apple store. So increasingly, the right to repair is something that I think the Free Software Foundation, of course, is going to focus on, but I think we as a community really need to start getting behind that a little more than we have been. And the fourth story on the docket tonight, the 5 best Linux distros released in 2018. So this article comes from Joey Snedden over at OMG Ubuntu. He's going to go ahead and list his 2018 top 5 best Linux distros released in 2018. And this time of year, usually right here at the end of the year or the first week of the new year, people start listing the 5 best distros that we saw in 2018 or the 5 best distros that we have to look forward to 2019. Everybody's going to make a list. I might even make a list. I made one, last year. But anyway, I'm going to read Joey's list and see, if I agree with him or if I don't agree with him. Best Linux Distros 2018, number 1, Ubuntu 1804 LTS Bionic Beaver. Now, of course, this is OMG Ubuntu. Is Joey a little biased toward Ubuntu? Maybe. That being said, I do think Ubuntu 1804 LTS Bionic Beaver, not Bionic, Bionic Beaver? Wow. I really need to make me another cup of coffee. Anyway, Bionic Beaver I thought was a fantastic release for Ubuntu. So, it's not a shock that it's probably going to be on most people's top 5 list as far as best releases in 2018. Would I put it number 1? Probably not, but that's just my own personal kind of bias. It's not my kind of distro as far as the desktop and everything. But hey, 1804 definitely a solid release. Number 2, Linux Mint 19.1 Tessa. So Linux Mint 19.1 Tessa was also a very good release. I thought it was one of the best releases for Linux Mint. Linux Mint, for me, the last few releases, Linux Mint have been getting kind of stale, right? Every release just looks the same, functions the same. I thought Linux Mint 19.1 was a little bit of an upgrade, right? It looks better, seems to feel better. Not as sluggish. When I talk about sluggish, I'm talking about the Cinnamon desktop environment. For those of you running things like the XFC desktop environment, that may not apply. But all in all, yeah, I thought Linux Mint 19.1 was a great release. Number 3, according to Joey, Fedora 29. I thought Fedora 29 was fantastic. I thought Fedora 29 was one of the best releases of Fedora I've ever taken a look at. Of course, I've taken a look at 2 or 3 of them on the YouTube channel. I've only been doing my YouTube channel a little over a year. But I've taken a look at a lot of Fedora releases over the years because it's such a big, important distro. So they have a release every 9 months or whatever, and I usually check it out. Check it out on a live USB stick or live DVD back in the day. And I will say that Fedora is so much better now than it was just a few years ago. And Fedora 29 was so good that I have actually been running Fedora 29 on another hard drive on my main production machine. I actually do record videos in Fedora 29. I don't use the GNOME desktop, I'm using the Plasma desktop. But Fedora 29 is fantastic. Number 4, Elementary OS 5.0. I thought Elementary OS 5 was just one of the most polished, clean, gorgeous Linux distros I've ever seen. I mentioned this in my review of Elementary OS 5.0, that this is what we should be putting out there for potential new users. People coming from Windows or Mac or thinking about coming over from Linux or from Windows and Mac to Linux. Distros like Elementary are what we should be presenting them. Modern distros, not these old, tired, sad-looking distros. For example, I love Xubuntu. Xubuntu's a great distro for somebody like me. But is that going to just knock the socks off a potential new to Linux user? No, they're going to look at that thing and go, wow, that really looks a lot like Windows 2000 or XP. It looks dated, right? There is nothing modern, nothing fresh to distros like that. Distros like Elementary OS, though, now they are really modern, really fresh, really slick looking. So Elementary OS I'm very high on. I have a little bias toward them. I've always been kind of a proponent of Elementary OS, even though I don't personally use it. Joey's number 5 on the list, kind of shocking. I didn't know Joey was the kind of person to put something like Void Linux in his top 5 Linux releases of 2018, but I don't hate that pick. I was pretty impressed with the new release of Void during 2018 as well. So reading a little bit about why he picked Void here, the latest snapshot, it's a rolling release, packs in various improvements to the unique XBPS packaging system, supports a swath of desktop environments including Enlightenment, Cinnamon, and Mate, and continues to be the go-to option for users of single-board PCs like Raspberry Pi. So Void caters to a lot of different users. I agree, the XBPS package management system they use is fantastic. Void also uses their own unique init system called Runit, which is great. Void is really interesting as far as a project. It's one that I love to check. Every time they come out with a new release, I have to check it out because it is a project I'm interested in. So Joey's Top 5. Number 5, Void. Number 4, Elementary. Number 3, Fedora 29. Number 2, Linux Mint 19.1. Number 1, 1804. Do I agree with that list? I don't hate that list. I'm going to have a little bit different order when I do my video of the top 5 Linux distros released in 2018. So be looking for that in the next couple of days. And the 5th and final story on the docket tonight, the most advanced file manager ever? I don't know. I thought this was a really neat, potential neat thing to look at. I haven't actually checked out this file manager yet, but this article, by the way, comes from It's False. This article was written by John Paul. Polo, the file manager with a paywall. Of course, with that headline, as you can imagine, Polo is not free when we talk about free as in beer. So there is a paid aspect to Polo. I'm going to quickly read the first couple of lines here. We are all familiar with file managers. It's that piece of software that allows you to access your directories, files, and a GUI. Most of us use the default file manager included with our desktop of choice. The creator of Polo hopes to get you to use his file manager by adding extra features but hides the good ones behind a paywall. So, this new file manager called Polo has some really amazing features. Features you won't find in any file manager out there, but to get access to a lot of these features, you have to pay. Polo, they do offer a version for free. For free, it's pretty good. You know, it's going to be your basic file manager, but a lot of the extra goodness, you're going to have to give the creator $10 via a donation to PayPal or subscribe to his Patreon or something like that. But you make a donation of at least $10 and you now get access to all of Polo's advanced features. So what are those advanced features? Well, before we get into that, we should mention Polo is an advanced file manager for Linux written in Vala. Also, the developer. The developer is Tony George. Tony George is the guy who created several popular Linux programs, free and open source software programs that most of us have heard of. Most of us have probably used at one time or another. A large percentage of Linux users know Timeshift, the backup utility, the default backup utility in Linux Mint Timeshift. I use Timeshift sometimes in Manjaro and other distributions. Conky, the Conky Manager was written by Tony George. So the Conky Manager is an easy way to manage your Conky, manage different themes in Conky. He also wrote the Aptic backup tools. I'm not familiar with Aptic. Let me click on that. Aptic is a tool for migrating settings and data from one Linux installation to another. Anyway, just a few kind of popular programs that most people have heard of. Anyway, the features of Polo File Manager. So with $10, what do you get? Well, let's discuss the free features first. The free features, you get multiple panes. So single pane, dual pane, or quad pane layouts. That's pretty nice. A lot of people really love dual pane file managers, so that's nice. That's included for free. Multiple views, you know, your standard stuff. List view, icon view, tiled view. Device managers, you get archive support, you know, for, you know, zip files and things like that. Checksum and hashing. You get built in the fish shell. So you also have support for cloud storage. So free features include support for things like Dropbox, Google Drive, Amazon Drive, etc. Also analyzes disk usage. That's interesting. Also connects to FTP, SFTP, SSH, and Samba servers. So that's the free features. So the free features actually read like the features you would find on most file managers out there, things like Nautilus, Dolphin, Nemo. Now, what are the paywall features? So this is what you have to donate at least $10 to get access to. If you donate at least $10, Polo comes with these features. You are able to write an ISO to USB device, I guess, from the file manager. That's interesting. Image optimization and adjustment tools. You can optimize ping, reduce JPEG quality, remove color, reduce color, boost color, set as wallpaper, rotate, resize, convert to ping, JPEG, TIFF, etc. That actually is a fantastic feature. That is the kinds of features, these right here, these image features, that I would use actually on a regular basis if they were available to me in a file manager. That's really neat. PDF tools. You can split, merge, add and remove passwords, reduce file size, uncompress, remove colors, rotate, optimize, etc. Also, Video download via YouTube-DL is also one of the extra features. So this sounds like a really neat, really powerful file manager. By the way, the screenshots, or those of you that are not watching the video, it looks like a really nice file manager, GUI file manager. It's actually quite attractive. Polo, though, I mean, if I wanted to take a look at it, I would want the paid version. I'm not sure if I want to give this guy $10 to take a look at his file manager, but if you guys let me know in the comments of this video if you want me to pay the $10 and take a look at Polo, maybe do a video on it. Just let me know if this is something that interests some of you, if enough of you are interested in it. I'll make a one-time donation. I don't mind donating, especially to free and open source projects. It won't hurt my feelings to give this guy $10 just to check out his file manager. So that was the fifth and final story on the docket tonight. This was Taking Into Account, episode 22. Taking Into Account is a weekly series. I try to release a new episode of Taking Into Account every Thursday, so be on the lookout for Taking Into Account episode 23 sometime next Thursday. Now, on Taking Into Account, other than the 5 main stories I cover on the episode, I do like to read a viewer question or comment. So, the viewer questions or comments I read, most of them are going to come from Mastodon. So, if you're not following me over on Mastodon, you really should. Mastodon's a great place to be. Get off of Facebook and Twitter. Join me over on Mastodon. Anyway, I get this private message, so I won't share the guy's name. I won't even share a screenshot of my Mastodon, but he asks, "Hey Derek, I've been trying lately to find a convenient distro to use solely on USB flash drive with persistent storage. I've had a lot of trouble trying to find and then get to work some distros like that. So far, I've only successfully installed Tails and Puppy Linux as persistent distros on a flash drive, but they don't really suit my needs. Can you help me?" So, full disclosure, I don't usually use Linux distros on live USB keys with persistence. The only ones I've ever used with persistence were Tails, because it uses persistence out of the box, and I use Tails, and Puppy Linux. So the 2 distros he mentioned would have been the ones I recommend to him, but he says, I know about Tails and I know about Puppy, they don't suit me. So I'm assuming you want like a full-featured like Linux desktop, you know, like something like Ubuntu or Mint or something, but you want something with persistence. Seems like most of the ones with persistence that are easy to set up are these kind of niche distros. So you're talking about the lightweight stuff, things like Puppy, which comes with persistence, Fat Dog, which comes with persistence, Antics. I think there's an easy way to get persistence on Antics. I haven't done it myself, but a lot of people recommend Antics as a live USB with persistence. So maybe try Antics. And it's more of a full-featured distro than something like Puppy. So there'll be a little bit more to Antics. I'm not sure if MX comes with persistence or not, but if Antics does, there's a good chance you might can do persistence on MX too rather easily. And if that's available, MX is fantastic. So if you can get a live USB key with MX with persistence, I think you'll be good. The only other thing I would offer to you is, I believe with Ubuntu ISOs, if you make your live USB stick with the program UNetBootin does offer setting up persistence through that program, UNetBootin. I don't usually use UNetBootin, and I don't usually do Ubuntu live USB keys, but I know that UNetBootin offers that functionality, so you might try that. Before I go, of course, this show was made possible by Ansem, Carlos, Chris, David, Leor, Rob, and Tony. They are the producers of the show. They are my highest tiered patrons over on Patreon. Without them, none of this would be possible. The show's also brought to you by all those fine ladies and gentlemen. You see all those names on the screen. They are the supporters of this channel. If you would like to support this channel, if you enjoyed this video, found this video entertaining, informative, please consider supporting the channel. You will find me at DistroTube over on Patreon. Peace, guys.